Are we talking Fire on the Mountain?
We could throw that. Did you watch that?
Yeah, we
Okay.
did.
Hell yeah.
We have thoughts on the ending.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another bonus episode of Flashback 64, the chronological Nintendo 64 podcast. I'm Gooey, here with my co-host, McKenna.
Hello.
Hello. And we have, it's a non-gaming episode we've got today. Mm-hmm. We are joined by our pals from the Media Made podcast. We got Rod and Jess. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, it's good to have you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
It's good to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, the snacks you've provided are amazing. I love them.
What? I just got a water over here. We got the one-sided snacks. Dang. Mm-hmm. So it's not the main subject here today, but our podcast, is about the Nintendo 64. So we thought it might be good just to give you guys the chance to say, what do you think about the Nintendo 64? Has that hit you in your life? I assume it has.
I've never heard of it.
Okay, we can move on then.
Nintendo? Is that a tennis racket?
It's like a gaming thing, yeah.
Oh. Yeah. So anyway, joking aside, I mean, considering my occupation as the editor-in-chief of Zelda Dungeon,
Mm-hmm.
the Nintendo 64 was pretty formative in my life. I got it. I got mine, I think, Christmas 98. And
right on, yeah.
Like from there, I think, your love affair was born.
I'm assuming Zelda was big for you.
Well, it's funny. It's like I was mostly a Mario guy for the first couple of years and Banjo-Kazooie.
Right on, yeah.
I'm looking forward to that episode when you guys do that.
Yeah. We can get right on.
But my friends on the block and I both discovered Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time around the same time. And we go to the video store and rent like Ocarina of Time and play it out of order, like depending on the save files that were saved to it. Like whoever the kid was who rented it before we did, we just play their files.
Wow. Yeah, they did some of the work for you. That's nice.
Yeah, you just skip straight to Ganon in that case. But yeah, I was on that thing like 24/7,
Oh, that's awesome.
Jess, on the other hand.
Hello. I am not a gamer kid. Mostly because I think by that point, I'm pretty sure we had a 64, but I wasn't allowed to play it. That was my dad's and occasionally my uncles when they came over.
Wow.
And maybe my older cousins. We had like a lot of kids in our family, and I was I'm technically in the middle, but when those things were out, like I was on the younger end, so I got pushed out.
The seniority.
And that was fine. Yeah, exactly. It's fine because I just read books, and books were so much cooler. I love books.
You're probably better off, honestly,
I don't have great coordination, and I do blame that at not being able to know my left from my right very well. And I think that would have been better if I played more video games, to be perfectly honest.
You want to strike at... McKenna read a lot of books and played a lot of games. You struck at maybe a happy medium.
Yeah.
How's your
I
coordination?
probably played less games when I was a kid, but... yeah. Well, I also played sports, so...
There you go.
Oh, rounder.
You have that over us.
Yeah, all of us.
Speak for yourself. Yeah. I sported.
All right. Well, regardless of how much of a gamer you were, I think for today's episode, you both are the perfect guests. Actually, why don't you tell people like what your podcast is?
Yeah, so Media Made is a show where we discuss year by year the movies, music, and TV that most invaded our life. That was our tagline. And what we do is we're going year by year, not unlike Flashback 64. But what we do is we find a list of every movie, music album, and TV show that debuted or released that year, and we decide which one each of us had watched or listened to the most ever in our life. So it's not necessarily our favorite. Sometimes it is. But it is often something that just invaded our life through family or just whatever was on the TV, whatever cable was showing, whatever's on the radio, and we dissect them, kind of dispel the nostalgia. Sometimes we rediscover some old classics that we forgot about, and we're like, no, this is good.
Yeah, and sometimes we turn each other onto things that we've never heard before. Like, you didn't like Nickelback, but now you love them.
I don't.
You love my Nickelback. Chad Kroeger for life.
Wow.
But we re-listen to NSYNC, and it's like, oh man, this is amazing.
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's something I really like about your show, and we're trying to do a similar thing, which is like look at, and especially because it's not just like we'll pick sometimes, and it's like this could be good or bad, but let's just get in there and see what it's like,
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool. How many years have you covered so far?
We started in 85, and we are currently recording and planning our shows for 2005. So we've got 20 years of shows done.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's funny to see how media and society has progressed over that time,
Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah.
And you notice the trends, and it's funny. I was thinking about our 1997 media, and
yes, I was wondering.
my movie, which was Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, which is the second sequel to Honey, We Shrunk the Kids.
Yes.
It features a scene with a chili volcano.
Whoa!
And I was
way.
There's something in the air in 1997.
People are really worried about volcano. Yeah, so that was my first question that I was going to propose to everyone is so today we're talking about the volcano phenomenon of 1997 in movies, and it's kind of McKenna, you kind of had the idea of wanting to do the episode because there's a lot of movies like this.
Yeah, there's sort of a phenomena of something that Wikipedia calls twin films, where there's two films or sometimes more with somewhat similar plots coming out within a year of each other. Another big one of the 90s that happened was Armageddon and Deep Impact.
Impacto Profundo?
But yeah, there's a whole list of them on Wikipedia. There's just tons of them, and I thought it would be cool to do an episode on two of the films with that concept.
And it's right where we're covering right now, but yeah, to what Rod was saying, I was wondering. I also feel like I remember seeing volcanoes a lot in children's cartoons. I'm sure there was stuff like that. So yeah, I was wondering, what does everybody think? Why were volcanoes on everyone's mind in 1997?
I think as far as the film Volcano, which is one of the two big movies that came out in 97, I think was drawing specifically the movie set in Los Angeles, and I think it might have been drawing on anxieties that came out of the earthquakes. There's the big earthquake in 94, and so as we talk about that movie, I'm sure we'll get into it a bit more, but I think that's the only thing socially that, or society wise, that would justify this fascination with volcanoes. I don't know if you looked into it. Were there eruptions that occurred around this time in the 90s?
I didn't see anything. I did try to look up that, but
I don't know specifically. I think there are eruptions happening all the time.
I
mean,
right?
there's a lot going on right now. I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple years we start getting more volcano movies.
McKenna was watching live streams of some volcano somewhere.
Yeah, I'm checking in on Iceland.
Iceland's
sometime.
got, they're always
cooking. Oh, that's right.
Something.
And in the meantime, there have been other eruptions. I think the one in Italy. There was one in Japan recently that formed a new island. There's one somewhere else too. Yeah, weirdly.
I wonder if some of it was because 97 is very close to the millennium, and if this was pre Y2K scare kind of things, how is the world going to end? Because it's definitely going to end at midnight on the 2000.
I'm sure GUI you've probably got this in your notes, but like the 90s is like the silver age of disaster movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, McKenna was just
actually
thinking that the other.
That's my big theory about this, is that it's just like an extension of the 90s disaster decade. I feel like I actually watched this like long video on the history of horror recently, and I think the 90s is kind of a decade where there's like some horror fatigue from the 80s, so it kind of dips.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're tired of the slashers.
Disaster movies kind of come in to fill this like thriller void.
Yeah. I could see it because I'm thinking Twister 96.
Oh yeah.
Like even Independence Day is a big, Roland Emmerich. This is like his heyday.
True.
Because you got Godzilla come out in 98, and then you have these two Volcano movies, and then
Armageddon.
Yep.
Obviously. Yeah,
and then
timeline.
The biggest disaster movies in the world came out. The biggest disaster movie, the most like acclaimed disaster movie. I think the third highest grossing film of all time came out in 97 as well. And that's a disaster movie.
Is that Titanic?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. And from a timeline perspective, like you kind of do see like trends like that dip in and out of like decades almost. It's not like exact science or anything, but I feel like the 70s, right, was like the last time there was a big like bunch of disaster movies, really. And like, that could be like almost like by that point there's like nostalgia or whatever for that, like people who are making films now like kind of grew up on those movies, so
that's a good point.
People
who are watching like Poseidon Adventure as a kid and Earthquake were like, oh man, I can do that.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of all those things, and I also think I was thinking like it's really not that far off from like Mount St. Helens, like that whole thing,
which was 1980.
1980, yeah. I mean, and that was referenced a lot in Dante's Peak. I think they referenced.
Yeah, they actually.
Yeah,
they filmed shots of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that is a while, but I remember being a kid and like, I would like that was something that always like kind of freaked me out when I'd learn about it in school. You'd see like pictures of Mount St. Helens or whatever, and it was like, ooh, that could happen, you know. I think
going back to. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I remembered also when I was a kid in school watching I think it might have been a mini series or something, like a dramatization of Yellowstone like erupting, and it was like this huge colossal like world ending thing. I don't know. This didn't seem like very useful to actually teach in school, but it was probably like a a substitute teacher day, but that like scared the crap out of me. So I don't know, maybe it was just like there's enough like going on psychologically to set it off.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, going back to the N64, I feel like volcanoes are like the prime game level as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think because it's so easy to convey what it is in a game, you know. And you
don't step on this.
Yeah, and you can go inside one. Yeah, like all the best N64 games that we'll talk about probably have a volcano in them.
I think so.
Bowser's level is all volcano, right?
Yeah. And Mario 64, you go in the volcano. Obviously, Death Mountain. Yeah. We could that could be a whole different episode. We should like rank all the volcanoes.
Yeah.
On the N64.
That would be awesome.
We'll track them all down. Yeah, let's talk about our first one. We're gonna do a little bit of chronology here. We'll talk about Dante's Peak first, which came out February 7th, 1997, starring
just in time for Valentine's. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
That's what I said.
I mean, it is of the two, it's the more romantic one, right?
It's the will they, won't they?
Will they?
It's got the sexier people in it.
Not just with the
sexier people, yes. Starring Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton, directed by Roger Donaldson. And we've got here we got the back of the box of the VHS.
Oh man,
McKenna's gonna
fun. Yeah.
get a little dramatic here.
Ooh,
I don't know about that. The text gets dramatic, but
you got this.
I don't know that Without warning, day becomes night, air turns to fire, and solid ground melts beneath white-hot lava. From director Roger Donaldson comes an adrenaline-pumping adventure starring Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton. Welcome to the town of Dante's Peak, where a long-dormant volcano is about to erupt with devastating force. Who will survive when the inferno unleashes its fury? The answer will leave you breathless, and the special effects will blow you away.
Wow, they'll blow you away.
Okay,
I was blown away.
The whole thing, the whole back cover is very sexy. They went in for it.
Oh, yeah.
This is a sexy
smoldering
movie.
volcano.
This is smoldering. I don't know if it's because it probably helps that Linda Hamilton is in it, but I feel like it feels like the most bombastic, like a James Cameron style movie. Like it kind of reminded me of Titanic and stuff like that. There was a great,
I agree.
There's it was very romantic in that way. So I immediately kind of liked it a lot, compared to these two, honestly, because I'm kind of a sucker for that sort of thing.
It's definitely the more artful of the two. I think it was prettier to look at because they shot out in one of the most beautiful places ever, like somewhere in Utah. I think it's the beautiful Pacific Northwest.
It has an inherent advantage because we watched stuff about the making of both, and they both seem to have made cool miniatures and cool effects and stuff like that. But I think this one being a little bit more grounded in reality, or I don't know if reality is right. I'm not a volcano expert. I don't know which one's more accurate, but you know what I mean? This one felt a bit more, they didn't have to, you just can't shoot lava going in LA. So it's there's just a lot of bad-ish looking CG. Whereas this, it shows off a lot more. There's all these really cool sets of and miniatures. They built that dam miniature and the bridge and stuff like that, and just that's so much more satisfying. And yeah, I think it has an inherent advantage because it's easier. I feel like it's an easier thing to convey.
Jess and I watch a web series called it's from the Corridor Digital crew. They do visual effects artists react, so they just react to old. It doesn't even have to be CG. It's just cool special effects, and they did an episode on the volcano movies, and they showed off those miniatures for Dante's Peak, including the scene with the dam, and they have the trucks trying to cross the bridge as a giant tidal wave's coming their way, and they're no, those are just 3 feet tall RC cars that they got on a track.
Yeah.
And I was it's amazing.
Yeah. And they dumped 80,000 gallons of water.
I know, it's wild.
Yeah, it really paid off. Doing things practically, just like you said, you can't really make lava in LA look as realistic as doing some of the stuff they did for Dante's Peak. And the things that they did, making it small scale to shoot it to look large, really did a good number for this film.
Oh yeah, it really comes off. And I think too, just the setting and everything, it leads to more there's just so many more natural kind of obstacles. They don't just have to encounter lava. There's so many other disastrous things that can happen other than things catch on fire, and so it create the scene where they're in the boat at the one point. There's a little bit of that in Volcano, but I feel here it can be a bit more diverse in what type of, there's a dam explosion and all that type of thing. So they don't have
there's a storm of ash you can't even see.
Yeah.
I was saying, I think in Volcano, a lot of the obstructions seem a lot more manufactured. I was saying, it feels like a video game at some point.
Yeah.
Where something, there's lava coming and you're oh, I'll just go the other way, and then something immediately falls in front of them, blocking their way.
Yeah, well, we could talk about it more with Volcano. There is a certain charm to that as well, but this movie, it was kind of interesting when we were watching there's like a little thing about the effects they were talking about, and both movies knew about each other, and it was sort of a race, and they said they kind of played a game of chicken with like the release dates, like they kept moving them up. They were both originally going to be in the summer, and then they just kept kind of fighting each other, and then Dante's Peak eventually got pushed all the way to February, and in the video we watched, it sounded like the production designer guy was like crunched pretty hard. But I mean, they really pulled it off. Yeah. But I think I guess it benefited them to be the first one, because then you've got the other one coming out, and it, then you've got that one in your mind.
I know that, like, I was reading reviews, like Roger Ebert and I think Siskel as well were both like, well, we can't not compare it to Dante. We can't not compare Volcano to Dante's Peak. And, they just kept referencing the other movie when they reviewed the second one. They were like, well, Dante's Peak has a mountain, and that's a good thing.
I think rushing the date, I honestly would, without you saying that, wouldn't have thought of it. I feel bad for the artists and the techs that had to and everybody post-production. Did you hear when, I don't know, I'm asking, when the shooting wrapped? Like, what was the difference between wrapping on shooting and release date?
No, I didn't actually get that. I just saw the guy talking about it, and I don't know, he had done some, it looked like he was a good sport about it. He had there's one image of him that they had where he tied a sign around his back that was like I'm under deadline, like, don't bother me unless it's important.
I'm gonna make a shirt and I'm gonna wear it everywhere. just want people not to bother me. I'm on a deadline. Do not talk to me.
Yeah, that could apply to most situations in life. Yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about any I don't know, we don't need to go through the story or anything, but I will say, just in general, I liked the setting, and I sort of even though I felt like the sort of romantic dramatic storyline has been, I recognized it from a lot of other movies. I felt like it was really well done in this movie, and I don't know if I'm just a sap for that sort of thing, but I really bought into it, and I felt like watching a lot of this movie, when they were sort of dating or flirting and stuff like that, I was like, this is cute. I like this couple.
I asked Jess, I was like, do they have chemistry? Because I couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah, I think when I watch movies, more than plot is important, but character is more important for me, and just how people are. I think they had some chemistry, but there was a lot going on in a short amount of time. And so for me, it was a little bit harder. I did think it was cute, but then my brain kept going what do you, stop trauma bonding. You have 2 kids, get them out of the city. What are you doing? But I think they were cute together. But I think when Rod asked me, do you think they have chemistry? The way the movie started with a completely other woman, which I think you forgot because you were
Pierce has had a tragedy early in the movie.
Yeah,
where he lost his love to a volcano.
Yeah,
that's the funniest part about the whole movie.
I was I felt like they had a little bit more chemistry, but that was probably because we were running real fast, and it's just come on, get in the car. But I can't leave my stuff, and I was like, girl, are you crazy? What do you mean you can't leave? The sky is on fire. Get in the car.
That scene rocked, though. That scene was so cool.
You kept saying that the beginning of Dante's Peak was slower than the other movies, and you didn't like it as much.
Except for that scene.
And I was like, did you forget that it started on fire? Moral of the story, you asked if you were a sap. Absolutely not. I know it didn't sound like I was getting to that point, but no.
Because I thought there's one thing I really appreciated, actually, because I feel like sometimes the more common thing to do is they sort of go through this harrowing experience, and then they fall in love. And I felt like this, they immediately kind of were cute on each other, and then they kind of got together ish, like really before it popped off.
They were about to.
They were like that close, and then it was like
something started going on. Here's what I think about this: is that their relationship kind of develops along
like
with the volcanic eruption, where it's like a slow burn. Like there are like hints of it.
Slow burn.
There's hints of it in the beginning.
Yeah,
and
he's
it's
like bringing
like
her
I
coffee
said,
or whatever.
it's
right?
it's like a will they won't they kind of thing. It's like, are they gonna get together? Is the volcano gonna explode? There's evidence,
and they're both so hot,
but we're not. Yeah.
So, that's all.
Yeah, I was like.
Right.
I mean, they're two very attractive people. I'm not surprised that they would see each other and go, "Are you single?" Yes. Are you single? Yes.
Let's do. Yeah, and like they're about to get together, but then stuff starts building up more with the volcano. You know, it's building up at the same time.
There's some tension.
So you're saying it's their fault the volcano erupted. Their energies were so aligned with nature that when they're like, let's go, the volcano said, okay.
Didn't burn in that pool until Pierce Brosnan got there.
Oof. Yeah. Oh, man, that was gnarly.
Oof. Yeah.
There's some gnarly things in this one for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was funny. We were watching this, and we get to the scene where Pierce Brosnan is like, "No, there's activity under the mountain. This is dangerous." And he tells his boss, and his boss is like, "No, we can't start a panic."
Yes.
And I thought to myself, is this just like Jaws? But instead of a shark, it's a volcano? I can't be the only person to think that.
You said that.
I said it while we were watching it, yeah. And there's two things that really made me think of it. That is one, but before that, the scene you mentioned in the opening where his wife gets, I guess this is not really like Jaws, it just made me think like the idea of a volcano almost became like almost anthropomorphized or whatever, like because now he's got like, it feels like he's got like they think he's got a grudge with like volcanoes, or like that he's like maybe he's just paranoid about them happening. So that kind of, I don't know, that didn't make me think of Jaws, but like something you would see maybe in like a monster movie or something like that.
Yeah.
And then when it's like you got them being like, we can't close down the town.
Yeah.
That happens, I guess, in the made for TV movie as well, but we could,
it does, yeah.
We can get into that later. But yeah, I kind of love that. I like that's like the most like movie, that and the wife's death, like that's what set this like comfortably at like kind of like a slightly over exaggerated like movie type tropes, you know, that it's like they have to like, I think it's a fair enough convention of like why there's some drama, you know, like I guess like I mean they've been made and like there's real life stories of like volcanoes erupting and like what type of drama that ensues, but I was thinking of like watching both of these, like a normal movie about a volcanic eruption would be like the stream you were watching of Iceland, where it's actually like it's like not that big of a deal, you know what I mean, like we know it's gonna happen. You know,
the town's been evacuated.
The town's
for
evacuated. Yeah, like the realistic Dante's Peak might be a little bit boring, where they're like, yeah, we should just get away from this obviously about to erupt volcano.
That's a great
there's
plan
a festival going on. The town's economy.
I did like the finding the people in who were dead, like burned alive or whatever. Like that felt like in a slasher movie where you start to find some of the bodies. Like, oh my God.
Sorry for some reason. No, this has nothing to do with anything. That just triggered in my mind the thought that we watched a video on Pokemon Go, and it was just like people just keep finding dead bodies, and that's what that moment felt like.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Sorry, it's unrelated. I have a
lot of Pokemon Go players in those early years would just like venture into the woods and find dead bodies.
Jeez.
Yeah,
but that's gnarly. What?
Yeah,
that's a movie
but they
idea,
still caught those Pokemon.
Yeah, as long as they got the Pokemon, who cares?
Yeah, but I think that this movie did really well what you would think Disaster would do. That was English. Specifically, everybody trying to get out of town, and the rules of the road mean nothing anymore.
Oh yeah,
and then the horrifying collapsing of everything.
Like the ramp, the off ramp to to the highway just collapses under the weight of all the cars. Like that's legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of things that were really realistic as like people, human character kind of thing, where the scene where I know we're not talking about the whole movie, but the scene where
okay.
Mom, I definitely remember character's names.
Linda Hamilton?
Yes.
That's not the character's name
That's
either.
not the character's name.
I don't know the characters' names either. It's Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton.
Yes. When Linda Hamilton was calling Grandma, and Grandma was like, I'm not coming down my mountain, click, and was like, okay, kids, we're going to go to the gym where we're going to keep everybody in and have this very big conversation. You stay here. And my brain was like, of course the kids are going to try to call and then go for their grandma. Why would you leave the kids alone at this time? And then when everything pops off, I'm like, why would you leave the kids? And then my brain was like, they didn't know that it was going to explode that night. They probably thought they would go back.
Yeah.
The kids aren't here. Crap. Let's go. They probably went up there. There's a note, whatever. But I was like, yeah. Your child who gets up in the middle of the night and goes to a freaking mine is probably going to disobey you and drive a car at the bright old age of 6 years old. I have no idea how old this kid was. And I think that like it made sense. The pushing of like the characters into the disaster of the like they're not the ones trying to get out of town or anything, like they're driving deeper in, and it made sense.
Yeah. Like they had to go get those kids, and like I think they did a good job with that. Like that the kids, it was believable, like you said, that the grandma or whatever wouldn't want to leave, and I like that aspect too.
I believe
it's a hoax. I'm not leaving my house.
The grandma was based on, I think it was at Mount St. Helens, where there was someone who lived near the mountain who refused to evacuate the town.
Oh, man.
Oh, jeez.
That makes it even sadder.
It is sad, especially because I was yelling at the TV when the grandma was like, it's my fault. And Mom was like, no, it's not. I was like, yes, it is. 100% it is. What are you talking about? Yes. And then she dies. Sorry, Grandma.
That was gosh.
Both movies that we're talking about here have this scene of like this moment of like heroic sacrifice or whatever.
Yeah.
To some degree, and I thought in this one where they're just like the whole setup of like them being in the boat and the like the heated water, right, is like
the acid
water. Yeah. Is like eating away at the boat, and like when they're like, I just thought like that gave me also the having the kids there, that gave me a little bit of like James Cameron sort of like Terminator 2 or whatever. But then when they're on this boat, it made me think of Titanic, where the lady's like reading to her kids or whatever. I'm like, geez, like I can't imagine this situation where you're like,
it's such a great escalation of action where like it is very James Cameron-esque, where it's like you're out of one problem and immediately into another. Reminds me of Aliens.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Again, I'm going to go slightly off topic because you guys have named several James Cameron movies and I've not seen any of them. Have I seen any James Cameron movies?
Have you not seen Titanic?
I've not seen Titanic.
Aliens?
No.
Piranha 3?
No. Okay. Apparently I've never. I just know of James Cameron. Have I not?
Avatar?
I did see that one. Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay.
Back on track.
Wow. Okay. That could be a media made subtopic almost. James Cameron.
I watched every James Cameron film.
I think I steer away from them because they are too long.
You like True Lies. You love that movie.
Oh, is that James Cameron?
Yeah.
I do enjoy that movie. That's probably the only one I'll ever. I love True Lies.
Well, I don't know why. Like, I keep thinking of him. He didn't make this movie, but I just see it.
It's the Linda Hamilton connection.
Yeah, and I think too, this is like this movie. It feels like like when I compare it to those, it's both like in a good way because I love those movies, but it also feels somewhat derivative in some ways.
Yeah,
and so like I almost think like intentionally they were going for that, which is that's a good thing to shoot for, in my opinion. Like it's
I think so.
It definitely isn't going to reach the same type of highs, but I look back on this and I was like yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah.
But when that the grandma like gets out of the boat and into the water, I'm like, this is so messed up. Like, it was so much more. We watched this actually after Volcano, and it was like,
so did we.
It was so much more like brutal and like visceral. Yeah, perfect.
I didn't laugh watching Grandma sacrifice herself to save the kids.
And yeah, I like what you said about the escalation of action. It like that almost was video gamey in a way, just of like it felt like, okay, they're dealing with this type of thing, and like that transitions into this type of thing, and it you know, you almost had like your different levels or whatever. Drive
kind of felt like even felt like an amusement park ride too. Like when they're driving the Jeep through the town and then up the mountain, I was like, why is this not a ride?
Oh man,
yeah,
that would be a sick ride. Yeah, and the whole there's one other moment of like, oh geez, that stuck out to me, which was when they were on that bridge, and the one, if you remember, the one guy gets like
boss man.
Team.
Is it the
Roseanne's
boss guy?
husband?
Roseanne's husband. Is that who that was?
I don't know. I don't think it's the same actor.
It's not.
That's what my brain saw when I saw him. Look, I'm really bad at faces.
There was one other guy in this who was what's that guy's Charles Hallahan.
This is
that who we're talking about? The guy he's also in The Thing. Yes. There's a lot of, I don't know. I liked, actually, honestly, just like the supporting cast was all like people who, like, I felt like I looked a lot of the people up and I was like, I feel like I've seen them in things, but then I couldn't find anything, but they just were so like, there's something like memorable about a lot of them. Like I don't know, the 90s character actors all stuck with me. Dante, speak. Is there anything else we want to add about this movie, like specifically? Any other thoughts?
I did want to say, you mentioned the kid running into the mine. Playing in the mine.
Perfect setup for the ending.
I was just thinking I loved that because it was like the beginning of the movie. Linda Hamilton yells at him because she's like, "Oh, it's dangerous in there," and you know the town's ignoring the larger looming danger of the volcano. And then at the end of the movie, the mine is what saves them from the volcano.
Wow, it's like the kid's metaphorical. His yearning for the mines to save them.
Yeah.
It did feel like the movie just kind of ended, though. Like, I don't think they did a very good job of establishing the importance of the elf machine.
Oh yeah, yes. the tracker, the GPS.
Yeah, because it felt like when they crashed into the mine that it was like, oh man, how are they gonna get out of this one? Like, and that there would be another big sort of like thing they have to go through, but really like the climax was just like crash or like driving down into the mine. You know, that was like the big ending thing. And so then there's this weird like final thing he has to do, but like it doesn't really feel that, like the stakes don't, even though they are, you know, like it doesn't feel that high. It almost should have like cut to like just someone like being like, oh, we're getting a signal or whatever. And they just have the machine, you know, like I don't think we needed
I think so
that
too.
Extra bit of like, oh, I gotta crawl through here and grab the machine. Wasn't
kick it on while I contort.
Yeah, I was like, I've seen all I need to see.
Yeah,
so I felt a little deflated at the end, but like I honestly like, we're starting with the good one because like Dante's Peak, I think overall was like the better movie.
It turns day into night. Air into fire. Nothing in the world can compare to its power. The most awesome sight you will ever see may be your last. In the town of Dante's Peak, a volcano is turning nature into a nightmare. Come on! Pierce Brosnan, Linda Hamilton.
Oh my
God. Dante's Peak. The pressure is building.
let's transition into Volcano. What do you say?
Yeah.
Do it.
All right. So Volcano released April 25th, 1997, starring Tommy Lee Jones and Anne. How do you say her name?
It's
Anne
Hesh.
Anne Hesh. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact pronunciation. Directed by Mick Jackson. And McKenna, what's the back of the box say?
All right. Quakes, riots, mudslides. Los Angeles has seen it all. Almost. Get set for non-stop action, searing suspense, and explosive special effects when Oscar winner Tommy Lee Jones stars in the first great action film of the year.
Throwing shade at Dante's Peak.
Something unspeakably chilling is heating up in the city of angels. Beneath the famed La Brea tar pits, a raging volcano has formed, raining a storm of deadly firebombs and an endless tide of white-hot lava upon the stunned city. Experience the pulse-pounding thrills as the dream capital of the world erupts into the stuff nightmares are made of. Take the ride, Volcano has it all.
Has it all.
They missed the tagline, the famous tagline from the movie. The coast is toast.
Yes, that's the front of the box.
Yeah, so Volcano. This is it's the more ridiculous of.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know about because Rod, you were saying like there was probably some anxiety about all the earthquakes and stuff. Like I don't know like the plausibility of either movie, but it just seemed like. I don't know how realistic it is. It felt a little far-fetched.
As far as a volcano erupting out of the La Brea tar pits, that seems pretty far-fetched.
Yeah, okay.
So some background, Jess and I live about an hour east of LA. We go to LA regularly. We try to not to, but it's hard not to when all the stuff's over there. But I will say, like, growing up in California, like I was a baby when the 1994 earthquake happened. But I remember in school, they showed us like documentaries about it, because it was such a big deal. It was probably the biggest disaster to hit the city in our lifetime.
Okay, yeah.
Like it was so devastating that like, freeway overpasses like collapsed, people were trapped for days in the wreckage. I would say there was a pretty large like cultural I guess anxiety from the earthquake. It kind of reminded like this movie, I think in some way was trying to be like the Godzilla for Los Angeles, because Godzilla like played on anxieties of the time when it was released.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think there's like an element of like, social commentary that I appreciate because like Los Angeles as a city like was hit with some pretty like serious, not just disasters, but like
right.
Because there was the 92 riots, which I've also seen a lot of documentaries about, where that was also just kind of a chaotic, crazy time that like was probably in the cultural memory in 1997. So when the volcano in Volcano is almost like incidental, for the first half of the movie, it just kind of like it's like Los Angeles's greatest hits for the first hour of the movie, where it's like, well, what happens if there's like a huge disaster, if there's some kind of scare in Los Angeles? It's like, okay, well, the looting's going to start immediately, which I think maybe they jumped to looting a little too quickly, but at the same time, if you live through the riots, I think like it's a pretty easy, thing to remember that, there was looting. It just happened,
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely like that element played into this too. I think this movie, you kind of mentioned it, but it has the tone of it. I don't know if this is the right word, but it's like sometimes it feels like it's like not patriotic, but like it strikes. I was saying this to McKenna. It has a similar tone to parts of like The Dark Knight. When it's like. We believe in humanity and stuff like that. There's like the scene with the cops and the one guy, and
it's heavy-handed for sure.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to get. I don't know if we want to jump straight to the ending, but like when the volcano starts curing racism, that's when I'm like, I'm out of this. This is so stupid.
That's the way to. Yeah, exactly. It has this thing of like, no matter what color you are, we're all humans, not volcanoes. You know. Like,
oh my gosh, we can erupt at any second.
Yeah. The fact that it was like, it's like, the one guy's like the cop who is like racist or whatever, and like
still racist. He didn't change at all.
No,
that event did not change him.
And it's like, oh, okay, you I guess you're not so bad, so I will help all those people not die. You know, he's like, we will send help to you. It's like, what the hell? Like, that's good. Like, I guess that's good, but like, does it? Yeah, exactly. Like you said, he's still not a good guy.
Yeah, this movie had the problem of too many cooks. Not like in the making of it, but yes, just too many people named Cook. There was way too many characters to follow that had way too many things, like the doctor and her husband.
Oh yeah, the volcano cured classism too.
Oh my gosh, there are certain things from this particular movie we've been making fun of all week, and that's one of them. She's like, "What are you down there with the pores? Come fix a tennis elbow." Like,
I'd rather my wife fix a tennis elbow than a gunshot wound.
Bro, what are you even saying?
My God.
Who did you marry?
Look, lava can melt all class and cultural barriers. That's what it's about. Yeah.
When the floor is lava, so is your home. You're down here with us.
It had. We might as well mention now then too. It had this movie had its own version of like the heroic sacrifice, and it was like the most like. Yeah, like it felt like I'm watching like it felt like I was watching a movie where we're at war with volcanoes and we're trying to lionize the veterans of the volcano battle, you know. This guy's
but all these people are supposed to be professionals. Like they're all like scientists and you know, emergency service people, and these folks go down into the subway where you know, a woman has fallen through the cracks in the floor already, and they had special equipment at some point that they had to wear because they couldn't breathe down there. But they all go, yeah, we're all going to go down there in our tennis shoes and our dress shirts and save some people from a subway.
No masks.
No masks, no gloves. He's touching like iron rods on the subway. And I was like, if his shoes are burning, why isn't his hands burning? It was so annoying.
Yeah, he was genuinely annoyed. He just, where are your masks? And I was like, COVID hasn't happened yet. There are no masks in America.
Okay. See, I took all this and I was like, in a different way than Dante Speak, I took all of this in and I was like, this is awesome. Like I love that they made a movie that was like about a volcano and trying to break down racial barriers and stuff. Even though it's so like, I don't know, almost crass, I guess. Like that's also something I'm kind of a sucker for too. So maybe I'm just too like, I don't know. I just thrive on stuff like that sometimes.
It was never boring.
Yes.
I think that's true. Yeah.
And I like Tommy Lee Jones is like the perfect for this kind of movie. Like Tommy Lee Jones being like, not snarky, but you know what I mean. Being
put upon constantly.
Like, put upon by the damn volcano. Yeah, both. This also has to have a similar thing to Dante's Peak, where it's like, you know, like someone's not buying it. You know, this is ridiculous. In this movie, it's more plausible. Like if I was Tommy Lee Jones, I'd be like, oh yeah, like that. Why that doesn't make sense? Like a volcano. Are you kidding me? But
he doesn't know what magma is.
Yeah. I like that.
What magma? What's that? Lava. Oh.
I like that element. It appealed to me being like, I don't know about no science. All I know is there's no volcanoes in LA. And it was
there in fact or not.
But he knew something was wrong.
And he
was like wise enough to be like, oh, we need to shut down like this section.
Yes, so it also had a storyline of like they're constructing a subway.
Yeah, the subway under MacArthur Park.
Okay, and they're like, yeah, we can't. It's another thing that has to happen in every disaster movie of like we can't stop what we're doing. Like this has to go through.
It's more believable in LA though. Like we can't evacuate this neighborhood on a hunch, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's easier than say like, you know, a rural town somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm biased.
Yeah, it's the logistics is probably insane for sure.
I could imagine having to like shut down a couple of streets in the middle of the day and all you would hear is honking and screaming because you've just added another 80 minutes to somebody's commute and they're just trying to go 5 miles down the street.
It's actually kind of topical where we're talking about this because there was a fire on the 10 in Los Angeles recently, and it shut the whole freeway down. And all I see is headlines, you know, this is the worst, this is horrible, what are we going to do to fix this?
It's like there was a fire. We're in the process of fixing it. Hold on.
We've got people working on it 24/7 because of you complainers.
You think we're just gonna let a fire sit there? Move.
I think in the reality, if like Volcano, like if they're like we gotta evacuate, I think a lot of people would be like, I gotta like go to work or whatever. Like,
yeah,
I'm not gonna do that.
A lot of people would ignore it, which is horrible but true.
Tommy Lee Jones does admit he's wrong by the end. Like there's Anne Heche's character right at the end. She's like, she says something like, I don't know what I did or something, and he's like, well, I didn't believe it, you know, so like good on you for sticking to your guns or something. He gives her some credit for him being like not having it in the beginning, so. You know, comes around. Character development. The movie also had me thinking. This was a present in Dante's Peak, but like I think because again, I think they're slightly more limited on what the volcano can do. I was like, dang, like these lava rock explosions are like. These are like really bad. Like they almost seem targeted sometimes.
Yeah.
They have to dodge them and stuff.
Oh my gosh, the worst of the effects was there's one shot where there's just a bunch of lava and Rod's talking to me. I was like, that's just red water. That is just a crashing wave colored red. And then there's a scene where there's like 4 different colored reds. And it's like, that one's a fire, that one's a fire, that one's water, that one's water.
That one's like bad CG.
Like, what is happening? And I thought that at least we had a lot of fun going like, what are they doing? Yeah, this following Dante's Peak was definitely much harder of a hit.
Yeah, I think if I was like a kid, I would have gone nuts for it though, because I think if I'm a kid and I'm watching this, I'm like, I'm getting way more lava, you know, and I'm all about the lava.
That is like the main threat of this one. You kind of you have like the fireballs in this one, but you know, in Dante's Peak there is lava, but it's like not the big threat.
They also have a similar. I think it's just like I don't know what making lava looks like making it look good. Looks like, but like even in Dante's Peak, like they were more subtle with the lava at times because when they did have it, it's like you know what I mean?
Does the thing that you know when lava is in the when it comes above ground, it's much cooler than it is underground, so it starts cooling off and like solidifies on top. So it's like darker and. Volcano, you just got this bright red the whole time. This
goo. There's water, I guess, is more like it.
I saw a lot of reviews saying like, oh, just like molten cheese is just rolling down the street.
Ooh, I like that. What this movie, I also it was a bit more outrageous, but I just like the ash effects more. They were just these huge, chunky pieces of ash that they were just blasting on everybody. It was just good. That was a way more fun visual just to see it getting in all their hair and stuff like
Tommy
that.
Lee Jones, just the ash covered hair.
I'm sure it would be horrible. Like it would be awful, but like it just felt so ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's also something that is surprisingly common in Southern California. Like, I feel like the two disasters we put up with on a yearly basis are earthquakes and fires.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Like Southern California is constantly on fire. So like even on the day of our wedding,
it was
ash was raining down from the sky.
Yeah. It was lovely.
You're used to it, right? So it's like
it's called Southern California snow.
Yeah. That's a good, nice way to look at it. With this one, because in Dante's Peak, it was like just another way. It was more like, I guess, plausible. If that's in that it was like, we just got to get. You mentioned the setup with the grandma. Like, we just got to get him. We got to get away from this. We got to escape. In this, it was more like Godzilla or like a monster movie where it's like, we have to figure out a way to defeat the lava, you know? It couldn't just be like, I guess, because if it was in LA, it would be very hard to just get everyone to safety. So they had to like come up with a way for it to have an ending. So first, they do have some. I like their schemes where they're like, we're gonna pile up. We're gonna bottleneck it. It's going down streets. They act like it would just like be flowing down the streets.
Boulevard.
And it would stay in the streets, I guess. But yeah, where they set up like a bunch of like cement blocks and trucks to stop it. And it's such a monster like movie thing. We're like, well, I guess we did it. And it's like, no, that's too easy.
Yeah, we haven't had the real explosion yet.
Yes, that too. But both movies, I think, kind of played on that too, where it's like even though this has happened, it can get so much worse, which I kind of liked. And then they have to later, like, their second plan is they have to blow up a path for it
building,
to go, right? Yeah. Which leads to like the most ridiculous part was, I think, the ending where he's just like coincidentally right where his daughter is.
Oh my god!
Because they get separated.
His daughter has chased a small child into the street,
and then he happens to see her, and he doesn't even really like. They have a moment.
He doesn't do anything.
He doesn't do anything.
Also, his daughter is like at least the second time in the movie where. She's just standing there. She's just like, oh, there's danger, but I'm just gonna stand here.
And he's like,
it happens earlier with when the volcano first explodes, and she's in his truck, and there's lava coming, and she gets out of the truck, and then she just stands there, and she's like, Dad.
He gives her clear instructions. If you need my help, start honking the horn. And she doesn't even do that.
I think, what was it? You said it. It was, I think when his ex-wife called, she was all like, she freezes when she's scared.
Yeah, that felt like an added in line late in the movie.
Yeah, where we're just kind of like, no, run. Like, what are you doing?
She was kind of big compared to the other kids who like knowingly ran into danger more so. I like almost can't blame them in that. Where in this one, like, he's telling her to go to the hospital, and she's like, I mean, I get it, you're a kid or whatever, but she's like, I need you. And it's like, no, he's important, man. He's got this
work
duty.
To
do. I forgot what he actually did, but
he's like emergency response or something.
Oh, he's the exact right guy.
Official.
Yeah.
So I was like, we gotta get this kid out of here. She really didn't. She didn't help at all.
No. She watched a kid badly.
Yeah, she lost him.
I think she was
hung out at the Hard Rock.
I think she was just old enough that I'm like, okay, you gotta grow up, kid, you know?
I think the thing was like, oh, my responsibility is to watch these two kids. Hey, where did Billy go? That way. Can I have his food? I'm going to go after Billy. What about the other kid?
Yeah, she immediately fails.
How did that kid get all the way outside? Like, beyond everything.
Just, Mom, like, what are you doing? That's fine. Kids and movies. They're plot pieces.
For sure, I guess. Yeah. And so, I mean, the movie, it also there was like a sort of like back and forth between the two lead characters, but it wasn't like romantic at all. Like,
no,
which I was crossing my fingers for. I was like, please don't do it.
Yeah, it was better that they were just kind of like partners in crime.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like that would just, we watched this one first, so I didn't have like an expectation, but I'm like, it just happens in every movie, and I'm like, oh, this is something that's gonna happen, and then at some point I was like, it's been too long, like if they, but then at the end he gets a little kiss on the cheek or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I guess that would happen. Yeah.
We haven't really talked about this. Is kind of an ensemble as well, because like there are a lot of like other things happening that like Don Cheadle is in like the mothership.
Don Cheadle,
like,
yeah,
he's calling the shots, and then Keith David just shows up out of nowhere.
I know, I saw his name in like the opening credits, and so I was thinking like, okay, he's being like presented as like and Keith David's here. And I thought, oh, he's going to show up. He's going to be like a general or something. And he was still great, but he shows up and it's like to no fanfare.
Yeah.
Like the movie is just like, and now this guy's here. And I was a little bummed.
Like, hey, remember me?
Yeah, both movies we're talking about, I guess, have some alumni from The Thing. But yeah, I was expecting more for Keith David.
Yeah,
I was a little disappointed, but
it was
I don't
like
know.
The ensemble nature made it feel that was a very like this one feels more Roland Emmerich inspired.
Yes. Yes.
Like Independence Day or like those type of movies where you've got
it felt more like a Godzilla for sure.
Yeah. So like, and I mean those we talked about it actually. We talked about Independence Day, and Independence Day obviously is even more so like this. So like it has sort of this very sappy, like almost like propagandistic feel to it, of like, whether it's like, I mean, in both I think it's good natured, it's meant to be like, yeah, humanity, but it feels like you're watching in both like a, an anti-alien or anti-volcano movie. It's like someone's got beef with the volcano in this one. And you did a good job. Like you talked about a lot of things that I'm like, okay, this does fit in with like a lot of the different anxieties at the time. Because at first when we started watching it, I felt like, maybe I'm wrong, but I first felt like I felt like L.A. Hollywood was like trying to make a volcano thing about themselves. I was like, Dante's Peak feels like a natural setting for like a volcano disaster. And watching this at first, I was like, it feels like people making this movie in Hollywood were like, who cares about it happening in some small town? Like, what if it happened right here in the greatest city ever?
I wouldn't be surprised if that had something to do with it. But like, honestly, like I would say the first half like felt pretty real to how LA would respond to a disaster. And I thought I had a lot of fun watching the first half of Volcano, because it was kind of like, I was telling Jess, I was like, this is quick. It's just going fast. New scene.
Mm-hmm.
They've got like the construction workers, like the Teamsters out in the yard, like pulling bets on where the center of the earthquake came from, and I was like, that seems like something people would do.
Yeah, it felt. Oh, okay. So it almost felt like you're watching like, oh, this feels like something that could really happen. And then
because it could have just been an earthquake movie, honestly.
Yeah, true. I feel I like, I don't know, I kind of just, it's another thing that I kind of, the cheesiness of like the ensemble nature and like this whole like the fear of the volcano attacking LA at the end, showing like the volcano that's now developed. Right. Like it's got it actually, it reminds me of Independence Day in that where that's a movie that almost starts off like, it almost starts off like in the event, and it slowly develops, and then by the end, when you're at the like the big space battle part, like it kind of goes like completely ridiculous, like, and it's obviously meant to more because it's about aliens or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know. It's again another thing where I'm like, I guess I just eat this up. I can totally see, like I almost agreed with like everything I read in the Roger Ebert review. I always find when I read his reviews, like, oh, he makes like some great observations and stuff, but there's times where even when he doesn't like a movie, I'm like, I agree with everything I'm reading, but that's why I kind of think it's awesome. So that was my takeaway from Volcano.
I feel like I keep coming back to how LA this movie is, but I think that's what I love the most about it, because it is honestly, I can't think of very many movies that are so authentically LA than this. Like maybe like Tarantino has a few, you know, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is very LA, but like this movie, it's shot on location. Like because I feel like sometimes you watch a movie, even though movies are made in Hollywood, a lot of the time LA is like kind of just, it's not a character. It's kind of like, well, this could be anywhere, but you know, there are palm trees in the background.
Yeah.
Like, no, this movie is so LA. They shot it in this, you know, it's like 3 blocks in the Miracle Mile. Like, it's like they were there. I was like, I know exactly where that is. I've walked there. You don't get a lot of like LA movies that will just like name drop local news radio stations just in the dialogue.
There are a ton of like reporters.
That
real
were
reporters in
real-
this movie.
Yeah. I recognized a lot of them. Like you watch, you know, ABC 7 News, you know.
There's like a
and then like they'll be
of
like,
them.
this is KNX 1070 AM, and I was like, yeah. Or there was another thing. I was like, this dialogue would not exist in any other movie. Like the person who wrote this understands LA because Don Cheadle's, you know, in the mothership, and they're talking about shutting down the airport, and they're like, all right, we're shutting down the airport. We got to divert all flights to Ontario. And I was like, whoever wrote that, they live here.
Yeah.
Because, and then Don Cheadle gives a little like, are you serious? Because if you know, we're diverting all traffic from LAX to Ontario.
That would be murderous. Oh my gosh, that would be. I was like, I think I was sitting here thinking, it's like, please send some to SN, send some to the other place. Don't. What are you talking about? All to Ontario.
And then so Gooey and McKenna, you have absolutely no idea what we're talking about.
No, not at all.
And
I've been
that's
there,
why I
but
was like,
I don't know. You know,
this movie is. It is a snapshot of Los Angeles in 1997. So for that, it's like, it's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of that snapshot is exactly like the right word of like a lot of movies. Like when we talk about a lot of movies, we bring up like the idea of like, oh, does this like hold up or not or whatever? And there's a lot of reasons why I don't always gel with that line of questioning. But one is like, because I like sometimes that a movie is like a snapshot of a time, you know, and like by watching it, you're transported in a way to that time, even in a ridiculous farcical Volcano movie. Like, and I think while I didn't get all the references like that you were talking about, like I totally feel that sentiment for sure. Like, I think because it commits to being very LA and then also trying to douse it with lava or whatever, I'm like, I'm almost forgiving too of like some of the CG and stuff, because I'm like, you know, they had a vision that they wanted to execute and they went for it.
It's just exploded. It's going crazy. The fire's popping off all over the city.
The west side is 1 million people.
There are going to be 1 million dead people if we don't evacuate. When Mount St. Helens blew, the force was greater than the Hiroshima bomb.
Listen up, let me tell you what's south of us. No more museums, no more department stores, just homes.
Moses couldn't reroute this. It's everywhere.
There's not enough time. I need a demolitions team. Everybody out! LAPD, National Guard. Put as many people in front of it as it takes. If we turn and run now, they're going to be defenseless. You don't like my plan? That's good. Give me another plan, but don't tell me we're backing out. We're going to take this thing to the ocean.
In a city where anything can happen. On April 25th, it will.
Please stay calm.
Yeah.
I recommend both these movies. Neither of them are like good. You know, I can't say like, oh, these are like, you know, great film. This is great cinema, but
they're like 3 stars both, I think, for different reasons.
Each is fun, yeah, for their own reason. They're both fun.
And that's I think that's cool. Like, and just like the fact that it's like that's so awesome with like Dante Speak in particular too, that it's like yeah, it's a fun movie or whatever. It's not the high tier cinema, but you go and watch it and it's like, man, they built all these cool sets and stuff like that. So it's hard to like be upset while watching it, you know. It's like, it's awesome when your mid-tier movie still you see like the craft in it and all that, like, and you can appreciate it, you know, that everything that went into it. Yeah, I love both of these, but maybe Yeah, we could shift gears. So they both, of them knew about. I'm sure there's a lot of scripts get passed around Hollywood and stuff like that. I'm not an insider. I don't know about that stuff, but it seems like, people know about different projects that are going on. And while kind of like doing research on both of these movies, I was looking on, IMDb, Wikipedia, and then I was looking on YouTube, like, oh, I wonder, we found the special effects stuff on there. But then I saw just someone had uploaded a movie from 1997 that was made for TV called Volcano, Fire on the Mountain.
Fuego en la Montaña.
And it had to totally be like someone heard about these two movies and they're like, yes, okay, we can churn out like a quick script or whatever to like capitalize on like what we think will be this sort of trend, because it felt it was like a mix of both, honestly. It had like a Dante's Peak like type setting or whatever, but then it also had the volcano element of like, we need to defeat the volcano.
Yeah.
Whereas in Volcano, they fight the lava stream with a building. In Fire on the Mountain, they have a lava flow fight an avalanche.
That's such a ridiculous like that seems so dangerous to do, right? Like,
yeah,
like I feel like they should be like put on trial for doing that, They endanger.
I feel like the avalanche did more damage than the lava.
Yeah. Avalanches are scary.
Yeah, I actually didn't even really I actually kind of liked it, like we were watching it, doing stuff in the background. Like, it wasn't like the main thing, so there's sort of that, but I kind of just enjoyed it as like, this is like a solid, it's like not good, but like for for like a
we have McDonald's at home.
Yeah, a little bit of that. But I feel like it was like competent enough, and like if you caught it on TV, it would be like okay to watch. But yeah, I would never like pay to see it or anything,
Yeah, I thought it was really well done for a Lifetime movie. Like yeah. It probably wasn't Lifetime, but it felt very Hallmark
ABC.
Yeah, and it was like, honestly, not bad. Not bad.
It
was honestly very funny. I thought it was so campy.
Very camp. Yeah. It was I think the most ridiculous of the like, don't you think of like we're not going to listen to you about the volcano situation.
Yeah. It also had a sacrifice, but
we didn't. What was the sacrifice in this one?
It wasn't really a sacrifice. It was, we kept going like, oh, we're not going to redeem this guy, are we?
Oh yeah, there's like the evil
business dad.
That was the best part of the movie for sure.
I agree. We were wound in a couple of times. We're like, yeah.
What happened? Why did he do that?
They just built up this one guy to be the biggest piece of crap ever. And then just totally like that was the most like slasher movie thing out of all of this. Of just like, God, I can't wait to see this guy get killed. I feel like that's not what you want in your disaster movie. Well, maybe one character like that's fine. It's fun.
Yeah. You spend the whole movie with this guy, and he hates his son. He
belittles his wife.
He just wants to land a big deal with like this hotshot businessman coming into town. He's like, hey, we can start a whole new venture up here. We can make this mountain town the Atlantic City of the wherever.
Of the Appalachians. Like, what are we doing, dude?
Both of those guys I liked a lot, actually. Both the business guys. I was like,
oh man, their slick back hair.
They were so 90s. I was thinking they would play great, like, bad aliens on, like, one of the 90s Star Trek shows. They'd make good Cardassians or whatever,
But, like, he goes, his son goes missing or something, and the mom is like, your son's gone missing. He could get hurt. I don't care.
It was, yeah. The kid, he had a nice little storyline too. You like kind of won over by the kid by the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot to do.
Yeah.
He delivered a child, maybe. Which when the avalanche happened and we're like, oh, the car's gonna be under there, and he was like, is this movie gonna kill a pregnant lady?
Oh my god! Yeah, I was pretty shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, the volcano got a pregnant lady.
That would be kind of too far a line, I think, for a made-for-TV movie. But who knows? I guess they could do it. I also like that the mayor was played by the actor who plays Scully's dad in X-Files. So another one of those, like, oh, it's one of those guys. So I immediately like that. The two leads also, they were trying to do the big, like, romantic thing. I thought all the actors and stuff were, like, good enough in this. Definitely,
they were fine.
Definitely,
I kept calling the main character Sting because he looked like Sting.
He does look like Sting. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
I kept calling him Low Rent Bond because I was like, oh, this is just Dante's Peak.
Yep. And yeah, they had, like, in Dante's Peak, all of them really, but Dante's Peak, I think the pair, like what their job was, that made sense. And I think they did that okay with this one. Like the one guy's like volcano expert, and then the other, she's like a ranger, right? She's like
yeah.
She pulls a gun on him, and I was like, where did she get that?
Yeah.
I was like, she's a ranger. That's her job.
That's just her own gun.
She saw her ex-boyfriend. She's like, I'm taking out my gun. I will say both the Dante's Peak and this one, Rod said in both occasions, she was like, no, the bosses are making sense. They're following protocols. You're going on a hunt. She's like, I'm with the boss. And even though I know the volcano is coming, there is no scientific data. All the data is saying it's going to be fine. So
I'm like, maybe it's because of all the things we've been through the last couple of years. But I'm like, when the science says, and like the data showing plenty of evidence why you shouldn't be acting hastily, I'm like, yeah, maybe the bosses are making the right decision here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
They weren't. But that's only because it was a movie.
Especially when the Sting in this TV movie had made a bad call in the past, and his bosses are like, we're not going to believe you. Remember that last time you made a mistake and we evacuated a whole town for no reason? We can't do that again. I was like, yeah.
Definitely.
That's fair.
Yeah, that in this especially, I think was like the least plausible for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Oh, also them all standing over gases that kill them without masks and just walking around.
Except for when you need to save the lady, then it's okay.
Oh, we have to also mention the big finale is amazing, where they're like skiing or whatever. Like, that is the most like that felt like a
the biggest threat of the movie is not the volcano.
It was the roaring avalanche,
the
which
avalanche
as soon as they had the idea to blow the mountain, I was like, did they watch Mulan? And we're like, no, that doesn't come out until next year. So this Disney stole this idea.
Mulan, yeah. I think I think that was like the marrying of the two types of things, where it's like, okay, we got this big final thing that's both going to defeat the volcano, but we're also going to have to ski away to safety in a big final dramatic moment. It, if I had to, like, I don't know why. I mean, I could maybe see this like being shown also in class. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, we're studying volcanoes and the teacher's gone. I don't know. Like, I could see this being thrown in my face as a kid, and I probably would have liked it all right, honestly.
Yeah.
I would have been, like, if I was, like, forced to watch it in class, I'd be like, well, this is better than homework. Yeah. So that's my review of this, is better than homework.
True.
World International Network and Davis Entertainment present
Message not attached.
A spectacular action-adventure event.
Can I have your attention, please? Everything's gonna be fine.
Dan Cortez of Melrose Place.
Everyone just stay calm.
Cynthia Gibb of Jack's Back.
And we'll get you out soon.
Brian Kerwin of Love Field. Volcano. Fire on the mountain.
Anything else about the volcano phenomenon that sticks out to you? Like, is there, like, what's your big takeaway after having watched the three of these? What did we learn, I guess? Volcanoes are a threat.
Always wear a mask.
And gloves.
True, yeah.
Run away. Lava is about as quick as zombies. You can make it. Just don't be stupid.
Don't stop 10 feet from where you started.
If Grandma says she doesn't want to come down the mountain, Grandma is a grown woman. This is fine.
She can make her own decision.
let her live her life. In a way, it's sort of like you go out, like, that's a good way to go out. You know?
I need to get whatever model of truck they were driving away from the volcano in Dante's Peak, because that thing was
that
a
is
trooper.
an excellent takeaway.
It got pretty beat up, and it was still kicking. Yeah. Do you think the volcano movie trend will ever like resurface? I know there's probably been some since, but will we ever have like a disaster movies kind of come and go? You know.
Honestly, I feel like in the last half decade we've had quite a few volcano incidences in the world. Am I wrong?
Maybe it's due for a comeback.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a little more distance on the tragic ones before we do. You know, like in the 80s we had St.
Helens.
Yeah. And then we didn't have a series of volcano movies until late 90s. So, you know,
some time
probably
to process it, you know.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think like it's almost like I was going to say maybe the special effects will look better now, but I'm like, no, man, they Dante's peaked in the 90s.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, they could probably with like just the lava, that was something in all of them. I'm like, I don't know if it's just because it's the most noticeably CG thing. I think sometimes that can go both ways, but that's like the only thing. I'm like, maybe that could look better, but like, yeah, you see those bridges and all that stuff they built. It's like they wouldn't even do that now. You know what I mean?
No.
So
yeah,
I think they need to do a combo, like a space volcano, like a volcano erupts on a planet or something that causes some debris to move towards the Earth, and we gotta protect the Earth from it.
From like a meteor, like an Armageddon.
That's so much better than what I was thinking.
And fight the aliens. It's like
yes.
Sorry, what was the movie you were thinking?
I wasn't even thinking about. I was thinking about we watch terrible movies because we have terrible movie nights, and we watched one that was like Tornado Heist, and I was
Hurricane
like,
Heist.
Oh, Hurricane Heist.
Was
it was just like Volcano Heist. Movie. I gotta get my money before this the whole town has been evacuated because a volcano is here. So let's rob the bank. Before the volcano destroys.
It ends with them racing down the volcano, you know, like.
You're like, do we want them to survive? I don't know.
I thought about mentioning Hurricane Heist because there's that whole thing in that where they're mad at the storm and the storm like forms like a skull, right? Like,
yeah.
He has like personal beef with the hurricane.
Oh my gosh.
And
it's very James and the Giant Peach. I'm not scared of you.
Yes. I was thinking that's what the volcano movie would need. Like the volcano could have a face like Donkey Kong Mountain in Mario Kart, you know, and like talk shit or whatever.
I think we need to pitch this immediately. You write the script, I'll cast.
Yeah, we
need to find someone to back this movie, someone with money.
Yeah, I think we can make this happen. Yeah. All right. Let's go into business. All right. This is a lot of fun. This is a great episode. It was nice talking to both of you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
I feel like at this point we need to do Deep Impact and Armageddon.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know, whenever you come down to what was that, 99, 2000?
I think is it
90? It's 98 or 99.
Might be
maybe.
You definitely okay. We'll definitely do that though. I'll commit to that right now.
Wait, you remember how you were like, I had some anxiety because they showed us the footage. For me, in elementary school, I have a visceral memory of sitting in the auditorium while they told us about how one day the sun will explode and it will take all of us, and being like, oh my God, and like, don't worry, you'll all be dead way before then. And I was like, oh my God,
They tell you that Bruce Willis was on the case.
No, so I don't watch like space world ending movies because they give me so much anxiety. So I might have to pass on that because I will be unwell for several weeks. I have not seen Armageddon. I don't know what Deep Impact is. I'm like, you can be on an alien world somewhere. I could watch The Martian. Has nothing to do with the Earth exploding.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, we'll definitely. I mean, I would love to do some more shows with you guys again for sure. We'll make it happen, whether it's world ending or not. You know, yeah. Do you want to like plug your stuff? Like, give us all your details.
So yeah, you can find our show Media Made on all of your podcast platforms. We're on Twitter. That's what we're calling it?
Are we? Yeah. I thought we were on Blue Sky.
We're also on Blue Sky at Media Made Show. Me personally, you can follow me at Rod the Master on those platforms. Jess?
I've got a YouTube that I never upload to. You can find that, maybe, or don't.
Taming Tales on YouTube.
Nice.
It's got stories up there. But yeah, Media Made Show is what we're doing.
Yes. I think I highly recommend it. Like, especially like if you're looking for a similar thing of like going back, capturing a time in life, and also like that, like your show, it's more autobiographical. Like you're talking about your own life. Like that's, I don't know, that's the type of thing we're trying to do here. So I highly recommend it to anyone.
I was going to say, if you like volcanoes in January, our 2005 movies, my 2005 movie specifically features a fight scene in a volcano.
And it will also feature me being very annoyed for at least an hour about his whole fight scene.
I don't know what you're talking about, actually. I like fight scenes in and around volcanoes. So
all right, look forward to that.
Very exciting. Yeah, you can find me online at Gooey Fame. McKenna,
McKenna Games on Twitter, but yeah, I have a few usernames. Nick Liz elsewhere.
You can find out Flashback 64. We're on a bunch of stuff. So we're on Twitter, Blue Sky. We have an Instagram. We got merch. We got a Patreon where you can give us $1 just to show support. But yeah, Flashback 64 everywhere. Otherwise, yeah, thanks again to you guys for coming on. It was a great episode.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll see you later.